Harvest on the Harbor in Portland started up in 2007. The idea was to celebrate Maine's great food and drinks and the people who fish, forage, and farm. It's happening again this weekend, 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. And one of the big events is going to be Oysterfest. John Harrigal from Maine Oyster Company is one of the people involved in that. And he's with us here on 207. Woo woo! Pretty excited? Looking forward to this?
Psyched, super psyched.
Last year,
really excited.
Oysterfest at Harvest on the Harbor sold out. How many people did you have there?
It was pretty cool. I think we had 300 people and 13, 14 farms, oyster farmers.
What happens at Oysterfest? It's happening on Saturday afternoon at Thompson's Point in Portland. What goes on?
You know, it's like really just about it's celebrating the oyster. It's celebrating Maine. It's about having fun around the oyster. And so it's really about all these different farms coming together in this community of oyster farmers and just sharing our product with all these kind of slurpers who love oysters.
I like your T-shirt
So.
from Maine Oyster Company, which is your raw bar in Portland. Farm to Slurp certified. Nicely done.
So it's great. And boom shakalaka, baby.
Boom shakalaka. That's right. You've got some oysters here from different growers in Maine. Why don't you start to shuck one? And let me ask you, how many farms are there now growing oysters in Maine?
You know, there's a lot. I honestly don't have an exact answer to that, but I know for this year at our festival, we're going to have 30 to 35 farms, and that's probably half to maybe a third. So I would say there's at least 100 farms in Maine.
And this
all
industry
sizes.
has just exploded in growth over the last 5-10 years, right?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I've been in the industry now about 4 years, which started as I have an oyster farm myself up in Phippsburg, and even in the last 4 years, you're seeing a lot of new farms come online, and it's exciting.
How much of a difference is there in the oysters from one farm to the next as you move along the coast, go to different places?
So they call that the miroir, kind of tasting the seawater of the different areas of the coast, and there's a difference. If you haven't slurped a lot of oysters, they're all briny and sweet by and large, but you'll see some have a little more meat in them, some have less meat, some have more seawater. So there is a difference. It's phytoplankton levels, it's kind of time of year you're harvesting, it's the size of the oyster. So.
How do oysters in Maine with its cold waters compare to oysters in other places? For instance, Chesapeake Bay, that's been an oyster hotbed. So have parts of Louisiana, oysters very big down there. How do our oysters compare to those in other parts of the country?
So obviously we're in Maine, we love our oyster and we have a phenomenal world-class product, but they're briny. The salinity level in the ocean is very high, so there's a lot more salt in the oyster. And then they're sweeter because they have to produce a lot of glucose and sugars to survive the long winter. So they're just a sweet oyster. So they have a lot of taste profile compared to other parts of the country.
At what age did you develop a taste for oysters? Because I didn't start to like them like this. I could eat them fried, I could eat them in stew, but I didn't really start to like them this way until I was about, 30, 35 years old.
That's a good question. I can't say I had like a massive love when I was a kid for them. Some kids just love them, but I would say, 10 years ago, I love the whole aspect of everything, from the community to connecting to the ocean. So the oyster taste is a piece of it, but it's not the whole piece for me personally.
This is an industry that has experienced rapid growth. Is it sustainable? Is this something that can keep going for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or are we in kind of a bubble?
I think it is if we play our cards right. Let's say there's 1 billion oysters slurped in America, and we produce, let's say, 20 to 40 million of those right now, and we have a great product. So as we push our product out of the state into other markets throughout the country, there's a huge opportunity for Maine as an industry, for our economy, for a way of life, for job creation. It's just kind of figuring out these supply channels.
Part of what people get to do at Oysterfest is talk to folks like you, talk to the growers. There are going to be 30 growers there. What kinds of questions do you get fairly frequently? What's maybe question number one that people ask you about oysters?
That is how old they are, how slimy they are. What's the taste they like? What do you put on them? How are they grown? There's a lot of different questions, I would say. I don't know if there's one specific one, but I think, do they taste different from different parts of the coast is a big one.
We were going to talk about the art of shucking oysters, but we've kind of run out of time. But needless to say, this is not for the amateurs. When you start to learn how to shuck, be careful. Learn from someone who knows what he or she is doing, right?
Do you want to try the last one?
We're out of time. We're out of time, and I really can't afford to lose a thumb or a finger here. What's the worst cut you've ever had?
Oh, you get some puncture wounds for sure, but overall, no fingers lost yet.
All right, well, be careful with those puncture wounds, John. Thanks for coming in. Again, Harvest on the Harbor happening Thursday through Sunday in Portland. Oysterfest happening Saturday afternoon at Thompson's Point. Information on all the events on our website in the 207 section, also on our mobile app. And stay with us, back with more right after this.